One of the things, and you brought up a very dear friend of mine, Mr. Win Schwartzow, and, his idea of cognitive security. Well, to add on, and I'd love to go down that rabbit hole with you, but one of the things that I've even told Win, I think part of the cognitive defense that we're not talking about is the need for individual sovereignty and neural data rights, but protecting our individual identities. You brought up social media. Oh my God. In my opinion, social media is going to probably eventually be the downfall of Western civilization. And I know that's a dramatic statement, but it's taken us to a point where we are more concerned with the group mentality, the mass mentality, and the likes and the dopamine hits that come from that, that we're giving away pretty much everything that makes us unique. I did an experiment. I have three daughters. I took my youngest daughter and went back within her Facebook feed and just started looking for personally identifiable information. And I used as my litmus test the standard questions that we get when we sign up for a new account somewhere, those self-service portal recovery questions. I found the address to our home when she was a child. I found the name of the school, her elementary school, junior high school, college. There's a picture of her with her first car. There's a post that she put up when my in-laws passed away. So there's my wife's maiden name. Every single thing we would have looked at from as an older generation as things that we need to keep private, they've actually already broadcasted out and made public. So I think in addition to the cognitive security, we also need to start having a better understanding of what is the value of our own individuality. Because, there's that old saying that, if you can't figure out what's for sale, the answer is probably you. And if you look at things like X, Instagram, Facebook, all of these social media companies, they're not charging you for their service. So they have shareholders and they are $1 million companies. Where do you think they're getting their money?
One of the things that, it's always on my mind is the data. The human being is becoming data.
Not becoming, it already is.
Everything we do is being out there as data. I've got Google Home in my office. I've got Google Home around the house. My phone, sometimes I'll be talking to my wife about going on vacation. All of a sudden I've seen an ad about where I'm going. It sort of puts you in that frame. So the biggest question, I guess, on a policy side, maybe, or the us individual needs to start pushing for is who owns the data? I mean, if I'm becoming the data as an individual, if the system is dissecting me into datas and bits and bytes and whatever you want to call it, don't I have the right for that data? A.
No.
And B, 15 years ago, somebody wrote, this is another one too. 15 years ago, I've known this reporter. She works for CBC Radio. She wrote an article, I think it's still online somewhere, I don't know. After somebody's passing, who owns the data footprint, or they call it the electronic
digital
footprint of that individual? What happened to that data, or that people pass and we're all gonna go there at some point. But after us, what happened to the data? Who owns it? If you look at
I can answer that very easy. The company that you signed up for. And if you think I'm wrong, I'm going to take a step back from this, because I think this is a very valid point that I think your listeners may really get an understanding from. Is when you sign up for any service, you get what is called an EULA, which stands for End User License Agreement. And how many people actually read?
I mean, if you agree, that's it.
Yeah, everybody wants the convenience, but the devil is in the details, as they say. I mean, I remember looking, and I did a talk on this about 3 or 4 years ago, and it was called "Resistance is Futile. We're Already Borg." And if you think about this from the Star Trek reference of the Borg and how they would assimilate people to becoming more technological, and they would basically become part of the larger collective, we are not being assimilated through force. We're being assimilated through our own choices. For example, if you take a look at some of the biggest data harvesters out there, Google is at the top of the list. If you think I'm wrong, and for the Apple iOS, iPhone community, don't think that you guys are any different. But if you want to know how deeply Android has gotten into your life, go look at your locational history. Everywhere you go, that mobile device is plotting that where you were on a map that you can actually go back. Same thing with iPhones. Same thing with all of your electronic or your electric vehicles right now. Every time you plug them in, they have GPS tracking, they have locational and situational awareness. We are, and the thing is, we're not being forced to do this. This is all by our own individual choices because we want the services that are attached to them.